So it has been about a week since we built that new pig feeder. Let's go see how it's doing. So they have not knocked it over, which is a good start. And this is about a week's worth of use here and very, very little waste on the ground. I mean, there's some right over here. So yeah, they're wasting some, but I really think in the grand scheme of things, that's not too bad. So it looks to me like they're feeding off of this side of the barrel and kind of ignoring that side, because look at how much it's piled up. They're feeding it out, or it's coming out on this side, and I think they're not fooling around with this side. And I think that's because they've got a little more room over there to eat than they do over here. It rained last night and it seems to be pretty dry too. There's a little moisture in places, but not bad. Not bad enough that they're not gonna eat it. Of course, they'll eat just about anything anyway, so slightly damp food is not gonna stop them. Can I have this? Can I have this, please? Thank you. Are you stuck?
I'm stuck in the mud.
Are you stuck in the hog waller?
I'm stuck in
the mud. Pick your right foot up.
Okay.
Oh, you are stuck. There we go.
Thanks.
You're welcome. So I think we can call this one a success.
Are these chickens broody?
I don't know.
Oh, they are broody.
I think she was just trying to lay an egg. I think she's trying to lay an egg too. The meat chickens are finally gone, and I learned some pretty important lessons on meat chickens this year. The main thing that I learned is that 50 meat chickens is just way too much. I had these aspirations of growing enough chickens for ourselves for meat and making enough to sell as well, but that just really didn't work out. 50 chickens is a lot of chickens to process by myself. I also learned that a dog kennel makes a really, really good chicken tractor. It's super nice being able just to open a door and walk right in without really having to duck down and lean over and get all fussy with it. I also learned that chicken processing knives are incredibly sharp. I sliced the snot out of this finger at one point, and that delayed butchering for at least a week. We've got another batch of meat chickens coming next week. It'll be 30 this time, and it's gonna be a whole lot better than 50. I think from here on out, I'm gonna keep it down to 2 to 3 batches per year, maybe 15 to 20 a piece, just for our own personal use. This is one of the fields that we planted on the last video, and you can see some of it is already starting to come up here, but it has been very, very dry, so most of it has not sprouted yet. There's a pea right there. Not a lot of sprouts going on just yet. This is the worst part of the year for me with food plots, because I plant it and I want to see like instant results, but I have to wait. So my best bet is just to not look at it for like a month, but I probably won't be able to do that. These will sprout as long as they've got ground contact. Having a little bit of dirt on top definitely helps, but it's drizzling a little bit right now, so if they get enough water on them, they'll go. One of my goals today was to get into those beehives and see how the honey production is coming along. I think they've been bringing back nectar for at least a month now, but it's rainy and it's overcast, and this is not a good day to break into the hive, so we may have to extend this one into tomorrow. mow out these pines that you see behind me here, but first I want to take this entire front end loader off. On the last video, we took just the bucket off before we tilled up or harrowed up the fields for the food plots, but I still got a whole lot of bounce in this whole front end loader system, and I feel like that's really rough on all of the joints and connections and so forth. So let's just take the entire thing off. That's going to make it more maneuverable, and it's going to make it a lot less wear and tear, I think. The only downside is I'm not going to be able to move trash and debris out of the way as I go along, as I won't have the grapple.
Off the track. I'm off the track. It's funny again.
So I want to mow out these pines, and I've got other stuff to mow as well, and this just makes the tractor way more maneuverable and helps to reduce wear and tear on all the articulations on that front end where it connects to the tractor, because things just bounce around. And one thing that I really hate is to see that loader just bouncing around. It seems like it's just destroying itself. Well, that's going to do it for this chore. I could definitely spend another 2 hours out here probably and get all of these little spots between the trees, but it's really just not worth the fuel, and plus that gives the rabbits a place to hide from the hawks. But it looks a lot better out here. Of course, it doesn't look perfect because of all of that stuff, but it's accessible now. I can get in here if I need to get in here, and Yeah, this is way better. Didn't puncture any tires on the tractor, which is always a plus, and the best part is I didn't run over any yellow jacket nests, which is really good. Let's go check on the bees. Well, that's not good. Something's been on top of these hives eating bees. That's half of a bee right there. Good grief. So my goal right now is not to really do anything except check and see how the hives are doing as far as honey production goes. I mentioned earlier in the video that I'm pretty sure that the bees started bringing nectar back into the hives probably a month or so ago, and these are some very strong hives. To my knowledge, none of them have swarmed. Now that doesn't mean they haven't, it just means I haven't seen it happen. Now, I really doubt that there's anything, or not much at least, going on in this very top box, but I want to break it open and look at it anyway, because I do see some signs that nectar is coming in, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. I'll try to get this in a better position so that y'all can see, because I don't know how good the camera's picking this up. But if you see, there's brown comb on this, of course, and on the tips or on the top edges of some of these cells, there's bright white comb. And that bright white comb is evidence that nectar's coming in. And let me show you some even better evidence that nectar's coming in. See down in those cells, all those little shiny spots? That is nectar. This frame is just about full of nectar. I'm gonna grab one from over here as well to see how far out they've put the nectar as well. Oh yeah. Oh man, they are filling it up. Can y'all see that? Lots of nectar in that one as well. Of course, at this point, it's just nectar. They've got a good ways to go before those cells are full and they dry everything out down to honey and cap it, but there's a lot of nectar in here. Let's check the next box. If y'all have noticed, there's blue painter's tape all over this hive, and the reason for that is I created a robbing situation in this hive about a month or so ago, a little over a month ago, and I was plugging up every crack I could find to make it stop, and they eventually stopped. Ooh, that's got some weight to it. I believe I see some capped honey in here, which is really exciting. Oh, I do see capped honey. In this particular frame, we've got honey. This is honey right here and nectar right here. The honey's in the middle in kind of an upside down rainbow type pattern. And then over here on each side, we've got uncapped nectar. One way to tell if the honey is ready to go is you can take these frames and shake it upside down a little bit. And if it falls out, it's obviously still nectar, doesn't need to go, and it's fallen out just a little bit. That is not a really good way to do it, in my opinion, and I may not even be telling that right, but the best thing for you to do is to make sure the cells are capped. If they are capped, the bees have gotten it down to the humidity level that it needs to be at, and it's good to go. Let's just go taste this and see what the difference is between this and this. We'll try this honey first. We'll check color and everything too. So that's kind of a light, well actually it's kind of a dark amber color there. Usually spring honey is fairly light, so my guess is that is last year's honey. It's really good, it's most likely last year's. Now we'll try some of this. Now this is not quite honey yet, so it's not, I'm not gonna expect it to be super dark, but it's a very light amber color. See how much it runs as compared to the other honey? This is my favorite right here. Let's try it. That's good. That's very light tasting. That's some of my favorite. Once they cap this, it'll have a little bit more of a flavor to it. Very, very light tasting stuff. Yeah, I don't know what to say. It's mostly probably clover, maybe blackberry too. Doesn't have a whole lot of flavor actually. I'm hoping once they dry it out some, it'll have more flavor. So this is particularly exciting for us because we actually ran out of honey this last year. We've been out of our honey now for a few weeks, and let me tell you, store-bought honey, once you've had real honey like this, store-bought is just no good. I love checking hives in weather like this because the bees have got all kinds of sunshine. They're out flying, they're out doing stuff. They've got better things to do than hang around the hive and sting people that are tearing their hives apart right now. So this is upside down, but I think it'll work. So this frame has got a mixture of nectar. Okay, let's go from left to right. Honey, nectar, and brood in various stages here. Now that looks like a shotgun pattern, which would be indicative of disease, but if the camera was better, y'all could see that actually all of these cells are full with some stage of brood in there, which is great. So most likely last year's honey, which is awesome that they made it through the winter with extra stores. This year's nectar most likely, and brood right here. Oh yeah. So really the same thing that was going on in the other box. You can see some of those shiny cells down in there. There's nectar in these frames, and yeah, they're working on these pretty good. Same thing in this box, lots of nectar. We'll go down one more. Now this box is looking promising. Ooh, that frame just came apart. That's not good. We'll do a different one for now. I didn't come to repair frames. Oh yeah. Oh, this is great. Let's get a close-up of this. So here's what's going on this frame. We've got honey out here on the outside. We've got nectar down here in the middle, and down here we've got brood, and it's in this nice rainbow pattern right here. So what that means is the bees are bringing back nectar so fast right now that as soon as these cells hatch out, this drone brood hatches out right here, they are immediately putting nectar in those cells, and this is kind of the pattern that we get out of it. So this is capped honey right here, this is nectar right here, and brood right here. This brood will hatch pretty soon, and they'll stick nectar down in there. So you may notice that I'm not using any queen excluders on my hives, and I've had people ask me before, where are my queen excluders? Do you not use queen excluders? And the answer is, I don't use queen excluders. And I'll tell you why in just a minute, but I want to break into this hive because really good things are going on in this hive. Look at that. Look at that. Oh man, that's exciting. These bees are the bees that I got out of a cedar tree about 7 miles south of here a couple of years ago. These genetics have proven to be wonderful, wonderful genetics. Oh, wow. Pretty much the same story all over this one. See how bright white that wax is, those cappings? That tells me that is brand new cappings right there that have not been stepped on over the last year by the bees. It's a little dingier right there, but I think they probably capped that first, and it's starting to get a little dirty. Pretty sure this is all this year's. Obviously this is this year's right in here. Let's try that right there. Look at that, very, very light, almost transparent. That's really good. That is really good. I wish you could taste it. Here's the next box here, and it's got me just a little bit worried by what I can see from the outside. So this is kind of normal. That was going on one of the other ones. But look at the population down here. They're outside today. They're polishing up the front of their hives here, but there seems to be a very large population of bees in this hive, and if that's happening this early in the year, we're probably going to have an overpopulation swarm if I don't add room to it. All right, I put that one down. I want to show you all this next frame right here. Ooh, yes. This frame is extractable. That is the only part that is not capped, and if I extracted this now, that wouldn't affect anything. Most of this is capped on this side, and all of it is capped on this side with the exception of a few right there. That is amazing. Kind of a different story on this one. Lots and lots of brood in this frame right here. They're probably going to be filling these in with nectar. In fact, I can see right here, that's what they're doing. They're filling these in with nectar as soon as these hatch. So yeah, that'll be extra space for nectar pretty soon. Yeah, so here's a better picture of that. You see this side right here? This one was just right next to that one I just showed you. Pretty much extractable. Let's taste this. That is most likely last year's honey. See how dark that is as compared to what we were just looking at? Totally fine, we'll extract it as well. But yeah, that's last year's honey. See what this other side looks like. Oh, see, that's much lighter right there. To some degree. It's probably a mix. That's much stronger than that light stuff. Very good. So I'm going to put a box of undrawn comb on this, or undrawn frames on this hive. There's some little bits actually drawn in there. But the reason I'm doing this is because this is really the time of year, well, it's what I've got, number one. But this is the time of year, if you need to have comb drawn out, this is the time of year to do it. Now, it's really important to remember that undrawn frames does not equal extra space for the bees, because they can't do anything with this stuff until they've actually drawn it out into comb. But this time of year, bees are drawing out comb. There's a lot of bees, and they have got a lot of nectar to work with, and they're in a good position to draw out new comb for you. And comb is the most valuable thing you can have as a beekeeper. We'll just do the top box of this one last hive, and then we'll talk about queen excluders. So exciting. Let's talk about queen excluders. Whoa, my goodness. My guess is that is last year's honey, but yeah, that's looking good. Let's taste it. I don't know when it's from, but it's delicious. Right here on the bottom of this frame here, you can see what is almost certainly this year's honey. See how much lighter it is? Oh, that is incredible. All right, let's get to the really exciting part of the video. Let's talk about queen excluders. This is a queen excluder right here, and the purpose of this is exactly what it sounds like. It's to exclude the queen from the honey supers. So on a beehive, you've got bottom boxes, and it depends on how many, if you're using deeps or mediums. I use all mediums on mine, but you've got bottom boxes that are full of brood. That's where the queen hangs out, lays eggs, and brood hatches. And then you've got the top boxes, which are the honey supers, and bees tend to store honey in an upward part of the hive, and that's why those are on the top, and the bees go up in there and they put honey in those cells. And this right here is to keep the queen from going up into those top boxes and laying eggs. Only the workers can fit through this, the queen cannot. So I don't use these. It sounds like kind of an important piece of equipment, right? I don't use them for a couple of reasons. Well, 3 reasons really. The first reason is I've found that they're really just not necessary for me. Now, I don't have some kind of a vendetta out against these queen excluders. Personally, I just don't use them. If you use them, that's fine. If they work for you, that's fantastic. But for me, it was just an added hassle on the hives. And I decided I just didn't want to use them, so I didn't use them, and it's worked out fine. What happens is exactly what I just showed you. Those bees, they go up into those top boxes, and if there is brood in those top boxes, they'll let that brood hatch out. They'll fill that hole, that cell, with nectar, and then the queen is just not going to go up there. If there's no place for the queen to lay, she's not going to hang out in those boxes. So once honey and nectar is established in those top boxes, she's just not going to go up there, so they kind of exclude the queen by themselves. The second reason that I don't use these is these little slots right here are very, very narrow. They are just narrow enough for a worker bee to go through, but they're not quite narrow enough for a queen to get through. The problem is there's not a huge difference between the size of a queen bee and a worker bee. So the worker bees are constantly squeezing their little bodies through these slots right here and rubbing their wings tightly through these slots over and over and over and over. Don't know how many times a day, honestly. That would be something cool to know. But anyway, they're going through these slots over and over again and prematurely wearing out their wings. Now, that's just something that I've read. It makes sense. I can't say that I have witnessed that because I don't use these. A third reason, and I have read this, again, not a lot of experience with this, some people call these honey excluders. And basically the reason for that is these could discourage the worker bees from going up into those top boxes and putting nectar where it's supposed to be in the first place. So I don't use these for all of those reasons, but the primary reason is that they are just not necessary for me with my 5 hives. It's just kind of an added piece of equipment and extra hassle that I can do without. So I'm incredibly happy with the performance of these hives here. This is the hive that we added another box to right here. And these hives, all of these hives are just in wonderful, wonderful shape. And I attribute that to 2 things. The first thing, and this is the main thing, is low mite numbers. I started off, I think last year sometime, doing oxalic acid vaporization to kill mites. It's an organic treatment. It is very, very safe for the bees. I've done other treatments before, like Mite Away Quick Strips, formic acid. Does a great job killing mites, but you sometimes lose a queen, and I've had that experience. Oxalic acid is super easy. It is very cheap, and it kills the snot out of some mites. The only drawback is you need to do it during brutalist period, or you'll end up doing it several times over like a 3-week period. The second thing is that I left honey on these hives over the winter. Did not get greedy last year with my honey extracting. I let them keep a ton of honey over the winter, and they came out of the winter extremely healthy. The third thing, and this is something that I didn't have any control over, is that I don't think any of these hives swarmed this year, which is really nothing short of a miracle. Bees just tend to swarm, that's what they do, but none of these hives, to my knowledge, swarmed this year. The population in these things is incredible. This is my swarm tree right up here, and I would come out here and check this tree twice a day some days during swarm season this year to look for balls of bees on this tree, and I never found any. And the population and the brood in these hives confirms that most likely no swarms this year. Well guys, that's gonna do it for this one. Lots of stuff going on in this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I appreciate you watching. Hopefully we'll be extracting honey within the next week or so, which is gonna be great because I'm really tired of eating store-bought honey. I'll see y'all on the next one. Thanks for watching.